Hello YouTubers, this is Lathermania, which in definition means strong zeal for freedom. I'm going to talk about alcohol stoves today. I got into this phase for a while, making the alcohol stoves. I want to talk about, I'm not going to talk about how to make them as much as I know that after me making about probably 50 of them, I've got some ideas that I haven't seen anybody do. So I just want to make a short video on some better ideas about these alcohol stoves. Alright, I've made every kind that you could think of out of the beer cans or soda cans. Some things I'll tell you that I've learned what to do and not to do. For one, I've seen a lot of people say that when pressing the one can into the other can, they're having splitting problems. Using a shim, like a piece about that big of a shim, to put it in there like so is a necessity. And using corn oil or vegetable oil works really good too. And of course, always, ream your bottom piece out. I don't have another half piece, but let's say this is a regular beer can size. Make sure you ream it out when you put it in there, and it'll flare it out a little bit. But still, people do that and they still have splitting problems. I have mastered that, but even though I've mastered it, if I made one today, it could still possibly happen. It happens. But these are some ways to, get around it, to definitely flare it out when putting it in. This one here actually is a regular 2-can, 2-can inner-walled alcohol stove. And then I took another beer can and I shoved it over top the bottom. And that's why this one here, if I tap the top side, and here if I tap the bottom, it's a lot thicker. It's because this is actually a can over top of the bottom can. Now the reason I did that is to get longer burn time. So what I did is I just made a regular alcohol stove. Then I drilled holes. Those are just dots, but to demonstrate what I did. Drilled a bunch of holes so that the alcohol would leak out. And then I put another can over top of it. And yeah, you want to talk about a splitting problem. I highly recommend, if you're going to try that, use like a Coors Light can, something with a lot thicker aluminum than the regular beer cans, which is usually what I do with all of mine. Is they're made out of a thicker aluminum can, like the Coors Light bottles. They're like a can bottle. It's not a long neck, they're a short neck, but they have a really thick aluminum. They're the same diameter as a regular beer can. Anyways, so that the fluid will leak down into here, and I'm trying to make a cooling stage, an extra stage, so that it will evaporate and actually builds a little bit better pressure, but cools it down. I did get an extra minute by doing that. So to run, a lot of my stoves run about 7 minutes. I've made some that they'll run 15 minutes. I do like to, but that's one of the ideas that you can do, is double layer this. It makes them a lot more sturdier, and you can get an extra minute burn time out of them. Alright, another thing, when people are making these inside walls, a lot of people are making the slits and slitting them like so, and so that they fit together. You'll see on some of these stoves, I don't know if you can see this, but there's just a line there, the aluminum wall. I don't connect them at all. I just wrap them up. And when you make the breather holes that go into the bottom of the can, just take some scissors and make a slit and a slit, and then through both pieces and fold it over, and that will hold it. Alright, and then the pressure of the top one coming down into this seam will press it together. Alright, that way you don't have to staple it, you don't have to do anything. You just make, you know, like 1 or 2 notches on the doubled side aluminum. Another thing, these inside walls, once again, I like to use the thicker aluminum, like the Bud Light Lime. This is a much thicker aluminum. What are these? Mike's Hard Lemonades or the Coors Light. And I always look for the thicker aluminum or the bigger diameter, which gives me a longer piece, and I don't shorten it. As a matter of fact, some of these have 2 of these in them, because I like to have as thick as I can on the inside walls. It gives me better burn time with having a little bit thicker aluminum. All right. Another thing is, a lot of people are having problems with them going out if you're using rubbing alcohol. Was that 95%? I think the 95%. And they were going out and so forth. If you file notches in there, which you can do a lot better with the thicker aluminum, it won't go all the way through. But it doesn't really hurt it if it does go through, to be honest with you, where you see the actual aluminum inner wall through the holes. That's one way to fix that problem of them going out. Different theories of why that is because the surface that you put on there is cold, and it cools the can and makes the fluid go back into liquid. That's one of the thoughts. Another is the pressure, so and so. Another thing I want to talk about is I was always making these alcohol stoves. What is this, like the 2-inch, 2 1/4 inch diameter and height? Well, when I was outside, when I was out in the woods, I had to make a bigger windshield to keep the wind from blowing my flame out. This is my recommendation: is go smaller. You'll get the same burn time, and you have some much smaller shielding you have to do. Not to mention, you can carry 2 for the size of 1. You can even roll up your windshield inside of there. So like in my bug out bag, this is what I have. I have 2 of them because they're just, they're stronger. They're indestructible. You can't damage them because they're so tiny. And I just don't ever see these. And my first one actually was one of these. And then I got away from it, started getting into the bigger ones. Then I started making penny stoves, which is the exact same thing except for not cutting this top out, but putting a couple holes in there and then putting a penny on it. Well, which I like the penny stove, it works. But this works perfect. I just highly recommend, if you're going to make an alcohol stove, make one like this. It's a much smaller diameter. They really work just as good. They have just as long burn time. They hold the same amount of alcohol that you're going to put in one of these goes in one of these. And you can do right on the seam. I don't ever put the seam down at the bottom. I usually put it up on the top. You can go back and forth like this one. You'll see that light is bright. You can go back and forth to make a little pattern, That works pretty good. I used to put the holes here at the top, but it was just, I couldn't boil the water as fast when I had them on the top. If they're down a little bit lower, you do burn fluid faster, because lower you get to the bottom, faster you're going to burn your fluid up. So I don't recommend going beyond this lip right here. But those are a couple things I wanted to say. I don't see these out there, and I don't know why. These, if you ask me, that's the only way to go, is to do the little small ones. This one here, heck, I used that one for, I bet, a year. And I've given these things out just as fast as I can make them. And I know a lot of you guys just camp. You're not really like survivalists like I am. I like to go out and just test myself all the time. So, and I do have a little itty bitty tiny tent, and this baby heat me right up. 17 degrees, keeps my tent nice and warm. I usually have something like this so that I don't burn the bottom of my tent. Some sort of another aluminum can that you can put it in. Another thing I don't see anybody doing, and when you're in a tent, you know, normally we put a cooking pot on there, which builds the pressure up so the flame shoots out the hole and not just burns up out of the second. Because if I put 1 ounce alcohol in here without this sealed, this is only going to last about 3 minutes, if that. It's going to get super hot. It's going to put a ton of heat off. It will do that, but it's not going to last very long. So I like to use the top of another can and put it right over top of it, like so. And if you get the right size can, it'll snap in there like that. So you can take a lighter, heat up the bottom if you want, and then just light the holes. You do it like that, snap this on there nice and tight, and that thing will run for 10 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes, like that, and it won't leak out. It's another thing I'm not seeing anybody do. It works really good if you have a windscreen that is up way higher than your alcohol stove. That's another reason you might want to do this, so that it doesn't just burn up out the center. Snap a lid on there. If you want, you can put the alcohol in a tray, light it, and then put your stove in there. But it just prolongs your burn time, and it's really a good idea. I really recommend it. Well, that was just some ideas I wanted to put out there. I hope on YouTube I start seeing a lot more of these, because smaller is definitely better when it comes to alcohol stoves. I know that these work just as good, but you know, everybody's, I mean, they're weighing these things. Oh, this one here actually has a second bottom on it too. And you see how tight this fit is, that actually the lip of the bottom piece of can that I put on this, one half went over and the other half went under. it split it, and it just, this actually has 2 layers on the bottom piece. I don't know what happened to this can. Got all crushed. I don't know. It's an old one. I'll probably just give that away to somebody. Well, there you go. Elathomania on alcohol stoves. Also, I'll make another video of me actually making these, because I have a lot better methods than what I'm seeing on the internet. Goodbye, guys.